Assalamu alaikum students. Today we will discuss the histological structure of the small intestine. So the small intestine is highly convoluted tube which is divided further into three segments. You can see here the highly convoluted tubule, and then it is divided into further three segments: the duodenum, the jejunum and the ileum. These segments exhibit nearly similar histological structure, but certain structural differences allow the identification of the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum under the microscope. Now, what are the functions of small intestine? So, first and most important function is the process of digestion, which is completed in the small intestine. So, there must be enzymes present in the small intestine coming from somewhere or secreted by the cells. About 90% nutrients and 80% water in the chyme are absorbed in the small intestine. So first two important functions, the digestion and the absorption. So the small intestine is designed for the digestion and the absorption. Immune defense. Now, the small intestine also contributes to the immune defense of the body by means of the gut associated lymphoid tissue. So, we will see what kind of lymphoid tissue is present in the small intestine. Synthesis of vitamins by normal gut flora. The normal gut flora, also called the gut microbiota of the gut, consisting of bacteria, archaea, fungi that normally live in the digestive tract of humans and other animals. They synthesize various types of vitamins, especially the B vitamins. In the small intestine, the gut microbiota synthesizes folate and biotin, which are absorbed into the blood through the intestinal mucosa. So these are some important functions performed by the small intestine. As I always emphasize that the histological structure always correlates with the function, and the function always correlate with the histological structure. So structure of the wall of small intestine. The small intestine consists of all the four usual typical folds of the typical layers of the GI tract, that is the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa and serosa or adventitia. So here you can see this is the section of the jejunum, part of the small intestine, and starting from the mucosa. So this is the mucosal layer: epithelium, lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. So there are three parts of the mucosa. Now the next layer is the submucosa. So this is the submucosa, and next to submucosa is the muscularis externa, which consists of two layers of smooth muscles, inner circular and outer longitudinal. Last is the serosa or adventitia. So what is the serosa or adventitia? Most of the small intestine is covered by serosa. Some part of the small intestine is covered by adventitia. Now what is serosa? Serosa is the outer visceral layer of the peritoneum, which forms the outer wall of any organ which it covers. So in case of small intestine, the jejunum and ileum, they are mostly covered with they are almost mostly covered with the serosa, and some parts of the duodenum have got adventitia. Now what is the basic histological difference in between the serosa or adventitia is that in case of serosa, a lining epithelium is added, squamous epithelium is added in the end at the outer wall of the organ here, and thin layer of connective tissue, blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics, some fatty tissue, and a thin layer of squamous epithelium known as mesothelium. So this is serosa. While in adventitia, no mesothelium is present, only the connective tissue, blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatics are present in the outer wall of the organ. So first of all, the mucosa of the small intestine, and mucosa of the small intestine has macroscopic and microscopic devices for increasing the surface area available for digestion and absorption function. Now before going towards these absorptive devices, we will uh, see the layers of the mucosa of the intestine. What is the histological structure? The mucosa of the small intestine, it consists of the epithelium, the lamina propria, and the muscularis mucosae. Now epithelium of the small intestine is lined by simple columnar epithelium which has got goblet cells. Simple columnar epithelium with goblet cells. The epithelium that lines the crypts and covers the villi is a continuous sheath. So these are the villi, so the epithelium covering it, and the crypts lower down here in the lamina propria. This epithelium is continued in the crypts also. Now the intestinal epithelium, here you can see that it is simple columnar epithelium with goblet cells. So here you can see the simple columnar column-like cells with the nucleus lying in the basal portions, oval nucleus lying in the basal portions. So the cells lining the intestinal epithelium uh, contains almost 6 types of cells: the enterocytes, the goblet cells. Enterocytes are the absorptive cells. The goblet cells, the enteroendocrine cells. These are the cells which secrete certain hormones which act locally. And then the Paneth cells. These are the cells of the immune system, that is, they work in defense. And stem cells, which regenerate the other types of cells, and the M cells. These are also related to the immune system. So the enterocytes, now these are the enterocytes. They are also known as absorptive cells, and they are tall columnar cells, each having basally located oval nucleus. So you can see here multiple tall columnar cells here with oval basal nucleus. You can see here oval basal nucleus, tall columnar cells with oval basal nucleus. And apical surface of an enterocyte is characterized by the presence of almost 3,000 closely packed microvilli. And when routine sections are examined under light microscope, the microvilli arranged parallel to each other, they impart a striated appearance on the free border of the absorptive cells. So you can see here they are imparting striated appearance. Now, therefore, this border is known as the striated border, also known as the brush border. We will discuss this brush border later on. They are due to the presence of microvilli. Now, electron microscopic diagrammatic picture of the enterocytes, it shows that the apical region of the enterocytes contain a large amount of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The cytoplasm also contains the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the free ribosomes, and numerous mitochondria. A large Golgi apparatus is present as in the supranuclear portion. So you can see here the Golgi apparatus in the supranuclear portion. The enterocytes are closely bound to one another by the junctional complexes. This is so because that the products of digestion compulsorily pass through the absorptive cells, and they do not adopt a paracellular route. So you can see here, this is the paracellular route, and at this route lies the junctional complexes, mainly the tight junctions at the apical surface, so that the absorptive product of digestion pass through the cells, not through the paracellular space. Now, the enterocytes are specialized for absorption of nutrient molecules that are produced as a result of digestive process. Water, ions, monosaccharides, amino acids, dipeptide, tripeptides are absorbed by the enterocytes, and then they are released into the paracellular space through the basolateral plasma membrane of the cells. So you can see here, this is the basolateral plasma membrane. So they are released in the paracellular space here, and then they get absorbed into the blood vessels. The fatty acids and the monoglycerides, which are the end products of the lipid digestion, they are emulsified by the bile salts into the minute vesicles which enter the enterocytes by passive diffusion by crossing the plasma leva, covering the microvilli on the apical surface of these cells. Now the enterocytes are re-esterified in smooth endoplasmic reticulum of the cells to form triglycerides. The triglycerides are passed on to the Golgi apparatus here, Golgi apparatus, and then where they are combined with apoproteins to form small particles which are known as chylomicrons. Now these chylomicrons, they cross the membrane and they are absorbed into the lymphatic channels known as lectins. So the other nutrients, they are absorbed into the blood vessels, while the fatty acids, triglycerides, they are absorbed into the lymphatic capillaries known as lectins, which are present in the villi. The goblet cells are mucus secreting unicellular glands which are scattered among the enterocytes. So you can see here, this is the special stain used for the staining of the goblet cells, and it is lying in between the enterocytes, their number increasing from the duodenum to the terminal ileum of the small intestine. Now these cells have the typical shape of a goblet. The expanded cup-shaped apical part of each goblet cell is occupied chiefly by the mucin granules. So you can see here, these are the mucin granules. The upper part, expanded part, is filled up by the mucin granules. So this is the expanded part, while the cytoplasm, it lies in the periphery here, and downwards lie the portion where the nucleus is lying here. So they give the appearance of the goblet glass. Now electron microscope shows that the luminal surface of the goblet cell bears a few microvilli. So you can see here, they bear few microvilli around the periphery, but is smooth and convex over the secretory granules that nearly fill the apical part of the cell. Mitochondria, abundant rough endoplasmic reticulum, numerous free ribosomes are scattered throughout the lateral and basal cytoplasm. The nucleus lies in the basal region of the cell, and a large Golgi complex is seen to be present between the nucleus and the secretory granules. So here lies the Golgi apparatus. So this is a special stain used known as periodic acid shift stain, which is used to stain the mucus in the goblet cell, and then you can visualize it as the expanded part of the goblet cells. The goblet cell, they secrete mucin, which represents a group of strongly hydrophilic glycoproteins. After the release from the cell, the mucin granules molecules, they come in contact with the water and become hydrated to form the mucus. which is thick viscous gel-like material whose chief function is the protection and lubrication. The lamina propria and the muscularis mucosae, the second and third part of the mucosa of the small intestine. Now the lamina propria, it lies beneath the lining epithelium, and it consists of layer of loose connective tissue, and this this also extend into the core of the cores of the intestinal villi. So you can see here, these are the intestinal villi. This is the epithelium, and this is the lamina propria, and the lamina propria is extending into the core of the villus also. Now most of the space in the lamina propria is occupied by the most of the space of the lamina propria, it is occupied by the, here you can see the glands, the crypts of Lieberkühn, the intestinal glands. The connective tissue of lamina propria is heavily infiltrated with lymphocytes and other cells of the immune system, that is the plasma cells, macrophages, mast cells and eosinophils. Now at places the lymphocytes accumulate to form a lymphoid follicle. In the ileum, the lymphoid follicles, they aggregate to form big lymphoid masses. You can see the Peyer's patches in the lamina propria of the ileum, which are extending into the submucosa also. So the Peyer's patches are always located opposite to the attachment of the mesentery, that is they are on the anti-mesenteric border, and each of them may contain more than 50 lymphoid follicles. So this is one lymphoid follicle, and the Peyer's patches may contain more than 50 lymphoid follicles. The mucosal surface over the Peyer's patches is usually smooth, and so here you can see the Peyer's patches, the aggregates of lymphoid tissues. The mucosa of the small intestine has macroscopic and microscopic devices for increasing the surface area available for digestion and absorptive function. These devices include the plica circularis, the villi and the microvilli. The plica circularis, so here you can see the plica circularis. These are visible with the naked eye. These are also known as valves of Kerckring. They are circular folds of mucosa that are visible to the naked eye. Unlike rugae of the stomach, these concentric folds are a permanent feature of the small intestinal mucosa. They do not disappear on distension. Now each plica circularis also contains a core of submucosa and may extend about 1/2 to 2/3 of the luminal circumference. The plica circularis increases the surface area of mucosa by about 3 times. So plica circularis, they increase the surface area of the mucosa about 3 times, and they are most pronounced in the duodenum, and they are absent in the proximal part of duodenum and distal half of the ileum. Now villi are the a further 10-fold increase in surface area is obtained by the presence of villi, which are finger-like projections of the small intestinal mucosa. So here you can see these are finger-like projections of the mucosa of the small intestine. Here these are the villi. These are finger-like projections of the mucosa of the small intestine, and the villi cover the entire surface of the mucosa and gives it a characteristic velvety appearance in freshly opened organs. So you can see here, this is the freshly opened organ, and the villi, they are giving a velvety appearance to the organ. Now each intestinal villus is about 1 mm in length and 0.1 mm in diameter. So the villi, they are Each intestinal villus is approximately 1 mm in length and 0.1 mm in diameter. So length is 1 mm and diameter is 0.1 millimeter. The about 10 to 40 villi are present per square millimeters of the mucosal surface. They are most abundant in the beginning of the small intestine but diminish in number towards the end of the intestine. Now the shape of the intestinal villi, it varies in different parts of the small intestine. There is a mixture of leaf-shaped and finger-shaped villi in the duodenum, and traced distally the number of leaf-shaped villi gradually decreases, and the jejunal mucosa has a predominance of finger-shaped villi, but many leaf-shaped villi are also present. The mucosa of ileum bears only finger-shaped villi. Now, under the light microscope, each intestinal villus is seen as an evagination of the, you can see, it is seen as evagination of the intestinal mucosa having a core of loose connective tissue. This is a core of loose connective tissue covered by the intestinal epithelium. This connective tissue is an extension of lamina propria of the mucosa and contains the network of fenestrated capillaries, a blind ending central lymphatic vessel called the lectile, you can see here in green color, and a few strands of smooth muscles. They are not shown here. So smooth muscles, they also go inside the lectile, and the fenestrated capillaries are also present. The intestinal villi contract and shorten intermittently owing to the activity of the smooth muscle fibers, which continue into the muscularis mucosae of the small intestinal mucosa. These rhythmic movements of villi are important for absorption. Now the microvilli, the enterocytes lining the intestinal villi bear microvilli on their apical surfaces. As I have told you before, this is an enterocyte and they are bearing microvilli on the apical surface. Now microvilli are the extensions of the cell membrane, while the villi are the extensions of the mucosa, the epithelium and the lamina propria, and the plica circularis is the extension of the mucosa and submucosal layer of the small intestinal wall. Now these microvilli further increase the surface area of the small intestinal mucosa by a factor of 20 times. So these microvilli, electron microscopic picture of these microvilli, they show the core of each microvillus is formed by a bundle of about 20 parallel actin filaments. Here you can see 20 parallel actin filaments. They are forming the core of the microvilli, and just beneath the brush border of the cell the cell exhibits terminal web, which is a layer of transversely oriented cytoplasmic filaments. So this is the terminal web, which is made up of, this is the terminal web. These are the transversely arranged fibers. These are the transversely arranged fibers. Now interaction between the actin filaments of the microvilli and myosin filaments of the terminal web results in oscillatory movements of the microvilli, which facilitates the process of absorption. Now the microvilli, they do not move, they do not have the movements like escalatory movements of the cilia, but they have an oscillatory movement. They oscillate and they stir away the fluid around them and cause new fluid to come, and with them comes the nutrients that get absorbed in the epithelium. Now, a further increase in mucosal surface area is achieved due to the occurrence of about 0.4 mm deep invaginations of the mucosa between the bases of the villi. You can see here between the bases of the villi, this is the invagination of the mucosa. These invaginations are called crypts of Lieberkühn. or intestinal crypts or intestinal glands. The crypts of Lieberkühn, they are actually simple tubular glands that lie in the lamina propria, and they may extend as far as the muscularis mucosae, and they contain the cells of the various types. First of all, the enterocytes, the absorptive cells, the goblet cells, the enteroendocrine cells, the Paneth cells, and the stem cells. So these types of cells are present in the crypts of Lieberkühn. So we will study them in detail in the next lecture. So submucosa of the small intestine, it consists of dense connective tissue and contains blood vessels, lymphatics, and submucosal Meissner's plexus of nerves. Now in the proximal part of the duodenum, the submucosa also contains a large number of glands. These are known as Brunner's glands. The Brunner's glands or the duodenal glands, they are branched tubular mucus secreting glands, and their ducts penetrate the muscularis mucosae and open into the intestinal crypts. Now the muscularis externa of the small intestine, it consists of inner circular and outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscles. This is the usual arrangement. Now between these two layers is present the myenteric plexus of the nerves. So you can see here the inner circular and the outer longitudinal layer, and in between lies the myenteric plexus of nerves. Last layer is the serosa or the adventitia. The most of the small intestine, it is surrounded by serosa, consisting of thin layer of connective tissue covered by a mesothelium. The posterior surface of the duodenum is covered by adventitia of only connective tissue. So here you can see the serosa. This is the duodenum, section of the duodenum, and you can see here the epithelium, simple squamous epithelium. The nuclei of simple squamous epithelium are visible here. So thin layer of connective tissue with blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics, and the fat cells. So this constitutes the serosa. And in case of adventitia, there is no mesothelium, only the connective tissue. So in the next lecture, we will study the cells of the intestinal glands and the differences in the various regions of the small intestine. I hope you have understood the basic structure of the wall of the small intestine and can correlate it with its function. Thank you so much.